Welcome to Future States, the podcast where technology, law, leadership, and society meet. I'm Emmanuel, and in each episode, I explore forces shaping the future and what leaders need to do to navigate them successfully. In our last episode, we asked whether government can keep up with technology. Today, we are doing something different. We are examining a question that sits at the heart of artificial intelligence AI. And that question is, who owns your data? It's a simple question, but as well as we will discover as we go along, it has surprisingly complex answers. If data is the new oil, why don't people know what they own? Every day we generate large amounts of data. Just a day in your life, your smartphone tracks location data. When you go online, your online searches reveals your interests and intentions, and your purchases creates consumer profiles. Each time you buy something, your smart device collects your usage pattern. Your social media capture your preference and behavior. Information. The AI company requires massive data set to train models, and this data they're already using it without your consent anyway. Organizations increasingly rely on data-driven decision making. Also, it's always on the agenda of government to explore a lot of data sharing initiative. And business are also monetizing information at a large scale, a scale that we've never seen before. Businesses are always looking for opportunities to buy data so that they can sell them stuff. What is important that we need to get out of this is that although people keep creating data, but very few understand who control it, who profit from it, or who have the right to use it. Today, we are going to explore one defining question of the digital age. And that question is that who should own the data that increasingly power our economy, our institution, and our future? Is it you? Is it the business? So what do we mean by data ownership? We need to understand this problem for us to be able to address it effectively. When you talk about ownership, we do assume that the concept is straightforward. But because if you buy something, you own it. If you buy a car, you own that car. If you buy a house, you own the house. But in the case of data, it is different. It is different to physical assets. And that is because data has some other properties. Data can be copied, data can be shared, and data can be analyzed repeatedly. Because of this, multiple parties can hold the same data simultaneously. So in cases where multiple parties hold it, who is the owner? Who is responsible for the data? Let's look at an example. Let's assume you visit a supermarket. Just a single visit that you did to the supermarket creates a lot of data. If you buy something from that supermarket, you will have payment information. If you have been attending that supermarket before that day, they will have your purchase history. Due to security reasons, most supermarkets have CCTV cameras. So it means that you will also have security camera footage. So they have your pictures, they have your video. Let's now step back and look at it critically. Who owns that information that they have? Is it you? There can be an argument that it is you because it is your data. Because at the end of the day, on that CCTV camera, it is your face. And in terms of the payment information, it is your record. It is what you bought. But there is another argument. What about the supermarket? The supermarket provide infrastructure that capture your image. They provided the platform that you use to pay. So there is an argument that the supermarket provide infrastructure around. So does that information belongs to the supermarket? And another one is the technology platform. If the supermarket is using a platform like Stripe, will that platform own the data? Or if they use TP-Link or another company for their CCTV, for their camera, does it belong to that particular company? There might be argument for all these different instances, but the answer is often less clear than people assume. I want to argue that data ownership is not just a technical issue, it is a legal, economic, and societal issue. Because data ownership is a legal, economic, and societal issue, it makes data become so valuable. Historically, they've always built power. Economic power was built around land, labor, capital. In the olden days, the rich people have land. In the United Kingdom, the landowners are the richest. And also labor, people that employ a lot of people, or capital, people that has a lot of money. But today, data has joined the lists. When we refer to data power, we are referring to artificial intelligence, personalized services, advertising, healthcare innovation, government services. Let's consider a modern AI system. They are not just valuable simply because of the algorithm. Because an algorithm is only valuable because of the vast amount of data it is trained on. Algorithms that were not trained on high amount of data, they are not as effective. The data is what powers the algorithm. Without data, machine learning will struggle, prediction will become weaker, automation will become less effective. And because of this reason, the most valuable technology companies in the world are often data companies disguised as technology companies. Let's look at it. Facebook, what is Facebook selling? They are selling your status. You are the commodity. Facebook is selling your data. Google, search about who, about you, your company, your house, your work, your article, your journal. Even Apple, the most valuable companies in the world are data company disguised as technology company. That brings us to the great data debates. And we are going to be discussing this from 3 different perspectives. The first perspective, although I started that argument the other time, but I'm going to go deeper this time. Let's look at the first perspective, that individuals own their data. What this perspective emphasizes is consent. Because people generate data, they own it. So before somebody else makes use of that data, it requires their consent. Apart from consent, it also goes to privacy, individual rights, personal control, and that is all because it is their data. But even as at that, there are still questions that we might ask. Because this data belongs to that individual, should people be paid for their data? Because if we argue that the data belongs to you, but somehow there are some organizations that want to make use of that data, should they have to pay to get access to that data? Of course, institutions are already paying for data. And then, should individuals be able to revoke access to their data? But you can revoke access to data when you know that your data is with that organization. There are a lot of organizations that owns your data that you don't even know owns your data. Example, if somebody walk through your house that has a camera, they already have data about their face. Also, because you own that data, should data inheritance exist? Just as you inherit your father's house, should you inherit your father's data? But let's look at another perspective. Let's assume organizations own data. For example, in the case of the supermarket example that I gave earlier, let's assume that the supermarket owns the data. They provide the storage and they do the analytics, provided the security. The argument is that because they do all that, And because they collect it lawfully, organizations should have the right to use it. That means they have the right to use it without paying you because they already go through all those processes. That perspective too is sensible. One thing about that is that their perspective focus on innovation, investment, commercial value, and the likes. But that is another perspective. If we consider data as a shared resource, and in this particular instance, instead of considering data as either belong to individuals or as belonging to a business, if we consider the data as public infrastructure, data powers good infrastructure. So in areas like healthcare, transportation, and for scientific research, the argument there is that the society benefits when data is shared responsibly. Even though it is your health data, if you share it with all the health researchers, they can look at the best outcome for people in your category. That is another perspective, that data being a shared resource. One thing is all these perspectives has their own arguments. The challenge that always come is balancing individual rights, organization incentives, and also public benefits. All these are all areas that we need to understand critically. Human rights is very important because without human rights, we live in anarchy, in a poor society. Without organizational incentive, businesses as well struggle. And also, of course, public benefit. When we don't use that to benefit the public, we have to spend more because the government is not making targeted spending. So, but let's now look at where we are now, data ownership in the AI era. There's a lot of challenge, and artificial intelligence has transformed these debates. And that is because AI, LLM, generative AI learns from books, websites, images, videos, social content, user interaction. They learn from so many things. All the three perspectives that I mentioned earlier that look theoretical are now becoming real and urgent. Let me give you an example. Should AI companies like OpenAI compensate creators for using their content? If Facebook Olama has trained on about 7 billion or more datasets, should Facebook pay each of us because they've used our data to train AI? Another question is that when you generate content with AI, who owns AI generated content? Am I the owner of the data because I'm the one that wrote in the prompts? Or does the data belongs to Copilot because it is their platform and they are the owner of the model? Or did it belong to the original person that wrote that thing where Cloud or ChatGPT has copied and reformed that information for me? So who owns AI generated content? This is a debate that will continue to happen. And also, can individuals opt out of training datasets? In theory, you can opt out, but in reality, I don't think you can. So now that we are aware of that, what rights should citizens have over algorithmic profiling? This is already happening. We can't pretend it's not happening. At least there's always personalized ads. So what rights should we have as citizens because of that? Imagine an AI model trained on millions of pieces of human created content like Facebook or Llama. Who should benefit from the value that model creates? Who should benefit? Is it the creators? Is it the AI company? Or is it the society? It's always complicated, but the argument I'm going to make is that the future of AI may depend on as much as data governance, on as much as technological advancements. So this is a very important issue and leaders should take it seriously. I'm going to be talking about what leaders should start doing today. Because of how volatile this is, there is no time to waste. So as a leader, the first action you should take is that you should understand your organization's data ecosystem. Every organization and their leader should know what data do we collect, why do we collect it, who has access to it, and how it is used. You need to know what data you collect so that you can understand the type of data it is, because what data it is will determine the kind of governance that you need to put around it. Also, you need to know why you collect the data, because under GDPR, you should only use the data for the purpose to which it is collected. So if you collect data and you don't know why you collect it, you should not be collecting that data in the first place. Who has access to it? That means you should only have access to the data that you need to carry out a particular activity. And how it is used, the data must be used in an ethical manner, in a responsible manner. So every leadership should know that. They should not leave that to chance. And the second action is to prioritize transparency. Customers and citizens increasingly expect to know what data is collected. When people ask that question, they should know what data is collected. They should also know how it is used and who it is shared with. They need to know how it is used so that they can trust. Because if they know how it is used, they will know how it has affected them, so that when there are decisions coming up, they will not doubt the integrity of the process. As you increase that trust, transparency also increases. Another is treating data stewardship as a leadership responsibility. Data stewardship is not solely an IT issue. As we've said in previous episode, it is not an IT issue. It is a governance issue. It is a risk issue. It's an ethical issue. It's also a strategic issue. And because of all these reasons, leaders should be able to explain and defend how the organization uses data. If you're a leader and you cannot explain and defend how your organization uses data, this is a call to you to take action, because it means that you are leaving a lot of things to chance. Throughout history, society have always debated ownership of valuable resource. We are in a familiar territory when it comes to that. People have debated and argued over land, natural resource. The debate is moving towards something different. We are debating ownership of information. And the question is not whether data has value. We have established from our various conversation, and we can see that it clearly does. The question we are trying to ask here is, who should benefit from the value created by the data we generate every day? And as artificial intelligence become increasingly dependent on human-generated information, there's another question. Can we build a data economy that is both innovative and fair? Thank you for listening to the Future States. If today's discussion made you think differently about data, privacy, and ownership, share this episode with a colleague, friend, or leader who is navigating the challenges of the digital age. Next time, we explore another major question shaping our future: the future of work in an AI economy. Will AI replace jobs, transform them, or create entirely new opportunities? Until next time, keep asking not only who owns technology, but who benefits from the future it creates. Thank you.